The old rundown hotel stood just a few steps away from the beach, where crashing waves and salty winds created an eerie atmosphere after sunset. Most tourists avoided the place at night because of the strange stories whispered by the locals, but Faizan and Imran cared little about rumors. They sat alone at a weathered wooden table in the corner of the hotel, empty liquor bottles scattered between them. The dim yellow light hanging from the ceiling flickered every few seconds, making their uneasy faces appear even more disturbed. Although both men tried to drown themselves in alcohol, something far darker than guilt lingered behind their eyes. Their silence was heavier than the sound of the sea outside. Faizan broke the silence first. Slamming his bottle onto the table, he forced a laugh that sounded anything but natural. "You're still scared? She's dead. Dead people don't come back." His voice was loud, almost as if he were trying to convince himself rather than his friend. Imran nervously rubbed his hands together and glanced toward the hotel entrance. "Stop saying that," he whispered. "I don't know why, but something feels wrong. What happened is over. Nobody found any evidence. As long as we keep quiet, everything will stay buried." Before Faizan could answer, a violent gust of wind swept through the open doorway. The lights flickered again, and every loose object in the hotel rattled. The air suddenly became colder. Curious, Faizan looked toward the beach and froze. Far away, standing alone near the shoreline, was a young woman dressed in white. Her long black hair covered most of her face, and despite the powerful wind, she stood perfectly still. Without another word, Faizan staggered to his feet. "Where are you going?" Imran asked anxiously. "I'll be back," Faizan muttered, before walking outside. The wind roared louder as he approached the mysterious figure. The beach was deserted except for her. Moonlight reflected off the waves, casting an unnatural glow around the woman. "What are you doing here all alone?" Faizan asked with a drunken smile. The woman slowly answered without looking at him. "I'm not alone." Her voice was soft, but it sent a chill through his entire body. Faizan stepped closer. At that very moment, he noticed something impossible. Her feet weren't touching the sand. She floated a few inches above the ground. Water continuously dripped from her soaked clothes, forming small puddles beneath her, yet no footprints appeared behind her. Faizan's smile vanished instantly. "What are you doing here?" he stammered. The woman slowly raised her head. Her eyes were completely black, darker than the night itself. A cold smile stretched across her pale face. "Don't you recognize me?" Fear exploded inside Faizan. His scream echoed across the empty beach. Before he could run, a gigantic wave suddenly rose from the sea, as if summoned by an invisible force. It crashed over him with terrifying strength, pulling him into the darkness before anyone could help. The ocean became silent once again. The next morning, villagers discovered Faizan's body lying on the shore. His eyes remained wide open, frozen in absolute terror. Deep, wet handprints surrounded his neck, as though someone with soaking hands had strangled him before throwing him back onto the beach. The police arrived quickly. One officer examined the body and said, "Sir, it looks like he drowned." The inspector knelt beside the corpse and carefully studied the marks around Faizan's throat. He slowly shook his head. "No," he said quietly. "People who drown don't die with marks like these." The mystery officially began. 3 days passed, but the nightmare had only shifted to its next victim. Imran's life became a prison of fear. Everywhere he went, he saw the same woman. Sometimes she stood silently in the middle of the road before disappearing when cars drove through her. Sometimes she appeared inside shopping mall mirrors, staring directly at him while everyone else reflected normally. Each sighting lasted only a few seconds, yet each one left him more terrified than before. Soon he stopped sleeping. One morning, while shaving in front of his bathroom mirror, he noticed someone standing behind him. It was her. Her soaked hair covered her face. Water dripped onto his bathroom floor. Imran spun around in panic. The room was empty. His heart pounded violently. That night, just after midnight, his phone rang. The screen displayed only one word: unknown. His trembling hands answered the call. No one spoke. Only the distant sound of crashing ocean waves filled the speaker. Then came a whisper. "Do you remember me?" Imran nearly dropped the phone. No, this isn't possible. He disconnected immediately. The lights throughout his apartment suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Then came another sound. Drip, drip, drip. Water was falling somewhere inside the room. His breathing became rapid. With shaking hands, he switched on his phone's flashlight. The beam slowly swept across the apartment until it reached his bed. Someone was sitting there, a young woman, completely soaked. Her head hung low, while strands of wet black hair covered her face. Imran's knees nearly gave way. "Please," he cried, "forgive me." The woman slowly stood up. Her neck cracked unnaturally as she lifted her face. "When I begged that night, you never forgave me." Imran screamed. The room erupted into chaos. A freezing wind circled around him, knocking furniture across the floor. The walls groaned as though the entire apartment were alive. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, she vanished. Imran collapsed onto the floor. For the first time, he finally accepted the truth. Ariba had returned. Meanwhile, the police investigation continued without answers. Every theory collapsed under strange evidence. Eventually, a retired police officer named Rahman secretly decided to investigate the case himself. During his long career, he had witnessed countless murders, but something about this investigation felt different. He personally examined Faizan's body. After several minutes of careful observation, he quietly spoke. "Every victim shares one thing." The younger officer looked confused. "What is it, sir?" Rahman inhaled deeply. "The smell." "What smell?" "Jasmine and seawater." That same night, Rahman searched through old missing person files stored in the police archives. Hours passed before one dusty folder caught his attention. Written across the cover were the words, "Ariba and Saad, missing couple." His expression immediately changed. He opened the file. Inside were photographs of a smiling young couple. As Rahman continued reading, the horrifying truth slowly emerged. 1 month earlier, Ariba and her husband Saad had traveled to an isolated farmhouse near the beach for their honeymoon. They had been deeply in love. Everything about the trip seemed perfect. During the day, they laughed while walking along the shoreline, collected seashells, and admired beautiful sunsets together. At dinner, Ariba smiled warmly. "The sea is beautiful," she said, "but somehow it feels frightening." Saad laughed and gently held her hand. "I'm here with you. Nothing will happen." She smiled back. Neither of them realized those would be among their final peaceful moments. Late that night, headlights appeared outside the farmhouse. A car stopped near the entrance. Inside were Faizan and Imran. Both were heavily drunk. At first, they approached the couple pretending to joke around. The conversation quickly turned uncomfortable, then violent. Saad demanded that they leave. Instead, the two men attacked Saad. Imran struck Saad repeatedly until he collapsed helplessly onto the ground. Ariba screamed and begged them to stop. She pleaded for mercy. She begged them to let them leave. Her cries echoed across the empty coastline. No one came. The isolated farmhouse became the scene of unimaginable cruelty. Hours later, as dawn approached, panic replaced the attacker's confidence. Faizan looked at the injured couple. If they survive, we're finished. Imran stared toward the sea. No evidence. Together, they dragged Saad and Ariba towards the shoreline. Neither victim was dead. Both were still breathing. Despite their desperate pleas, Faizan and Imran threw them alive into the deep ocean. As the freezing water swallowed her, Ariba looked directly at her killers. Her final words echoed across the waves. "I will come back." Moments later, the ocean became completely silent. Rahman finally understood everything. Back in the present, only one man remained alive, Imran. Consumed